So I wanted to ask about the origin of the human race. How, on the planet Earth, the transition occurred from animal-level beings up to beings of human level.
Do you believe that all species that you see on the planet presently have same origin? Because your question seemed to imply that. So we were just wondering if that is the premise from which you are beginning, that there was a glob called life, and from it has sprung all of the diversity that you see.
Yes, generally I would tend to think that there is some one process.
Process, yes, but we're asking, did all species, do you believe, evolve from the same physical root or beginning?
Well, that is the scientific view. I've studied these things for many years, and I'm not really satisfied by my understanding, so I was hoping you could give some insight.
It isn't easy to describe the physical evolution through the mindset that man has, whether he is approaching it through scientific eyes or religious eyes. And we are very happy to visit with you with your scientific basis, because it is our expectation that as you deliberately apply your newly acquired understanding of this vibrational universe to what you've already been exploring in terms of physical evolution, all kinds of ahas are going to begin occurring to you, and we'll lay a little basis for that here. For example, the intent is everything. So when you realize that everything about this planet was set into motion by thought, and that the evolved thought then began to become form and eventually manifestation. In other words, there is thought, then there is thought form, then there is manifestation, and that is an incredibly scanty view of that vibrational evolution process. But we want you to try to wrap your thoughts around the idea that from that non-physical vantage point, which was the true inception of all of this, or conception of all of this, that the intent of the fish and the intent of the bird and the intent of the dog and the intent of man were different, and that one did not spring forth from the other. They were different intentions, you see. And when scientists try to clump it all together and say one came from one, then the religionists or the metaphysicians or whoever they are, the karmic cop-outers, then want to call one species less evolved than another, and of course they want to put man on the top of the heap. And we want to say you have all come, all physical beings, from the non-physical intent, and you are all exactly as you have intended to be. So that which you know as man was seen so similar to that which you are in its inception and conception, that's why the religious people get such a strong foothold, because there's more to it than just that cell by cell evolution that the scientists have not been able to hook together. Helpful?
Yes, so would this then imply that, for example, that we have the story that man evolved from apes, or some ape-like
Well, he didn't.
ancestor?
Man did not evolve from apes. Ape was a different intent than man. If man had evolved from apes, then there would not be any more apes.
So there were separate creations then of the different species,
Different
characterized by
intentions.
different intents.
Different intentions. Different intentions. Do you walk up to your ape friends and say, "Sorry, buddy. Don't know where you went wrong, but clearly you should have come with the rest of us"?
So if we look at human beings and we go back generation by generation, do we go back to some original human being who was placed here by source? and then the human race continued from that point? Or because the scientific story is that the ape slowly changed into the human. But if that's not the case...
You want everything to be so literal. When you turn on your television, you never walk up to the boxes are long gone or nearly, and walk around behind it to look for the little people inside. You accept that it is a transmission of vibration that is appearing before you. And we are not here to burst any bubbles, but this physical world in which you live is a vibrational interpretation. And so the reality that seems so real that you want to track it cell by cell is the vibrational extension of thought. And if you can just make that leap, then there are no limits for you. But if you don't make the leap, then you're just an extra good monkey.
If we look at the history of mankind over thousands of years, people were living what we would call a fairly primitive, at a primitive level for many, many, many thousands of years. And we see that within very recent years, there's this tremendous explosion of knowledge and technology and so on. Is it that another intent has been placed into the human race, or how do we...
It is that the intent is expanding from the base of experience.
So how is it you have such a long period of not much development and then such amazing development in a short time?
Well, there are two things we want to say about that. That evolution is a perceptual thing, and you're not doing a very effective job really of tracking things. And the evolution of your planet, while this is the most evolved time, and because it's the most leading edge time, the evolution of your planet, in other words, there have been more technologically evolved species on your planet than you. This is a very magnificent sphere that recycles generations. In other words, the history that you dig up is a very scanty, minuscule amount. We would go so far as to say that the scientific data is as ridiculous as the religious story. The religions say God created the world in how many days?
6.
And because there was that day that he just wanted to chill, yes. And most rational people try to wrap their thoughts around that and say, give me a break. How big was that ship? And how many of each of them were on it? In other words, it doesn't hold water because it is illogical. And we say, and the scientists on the other side are as illogical. Everyone is approaching you and who you are from a physical standpoint. And you are not physical, you are vibrational. And until you understand the current of vibration, you will not understand anything that you see that is the manifestation of it, you see.